right. Welcome to episode 140. Where are we at? 141, Bullet. You gonna do a cheer? No, you're gonna boo. Oh, boo, Bullet, boo. Oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, that's the wrong one too. Where's the where the hell is the drum one? That's not the drum one. There it is. Woo! Bullet, 141. Woo! Obnoxious and idiots. I'm just hitting buttons. I was only 8 and I always get them all wrong. Oh, visually impaired problems and mental health problems. Yeah, guys, welcome to the show. Bullet and I are gonna just kind of transition here and just jump right in. We're gonna get to our wonderful, fantastic, stupendous guest. Thank you for your time. All right, guys, we are back again. I believe I found this guy on a different website. Actually, I'm not sure which one I found him on because I found a couple of new sites to find guests on. Podmatch is obviously the main one, but I'm always perusing when I have some time. I peruse the internet, try to find good qualified guests that make sense, especially for people in the disability community because. I try to put us in the best light, and I also want us to. I just want to find at least one person to represent every condition possible, if imaginable. Sometimes it's hard, but this guy has a really crazy story. He's overcome a lot, and I'm proud to have a chance to get to know him. So yeah, buddy, you want to introduce yourself? Maybe tell a little about yourself.
Hi, I am Chris Mitchell. I am a person with a physical disability, a visual disability, some would say it's a learning disability, but others would say it's a neurodiverse disability. That's my ADHD. So I've had all three of them, and I also do battle with a little bit of depression, so the mental health as well. So I got a little bit of everything going on. My physical disability is I survived an injury that is an incomplete spinal cord injury, and I lost the ability to run, walk, or even stand on my own. And at the time I was engaged, and I'm visually impaired because I was born with cataracts. So like you, I am legally blind.
Right. So of the four, the mental health part, the spinal injury, two of them you were born with? Oh, yeah,
yes.
The cataracts and
yes.
then, yeah.
And because ADHD. But the what I have not told you, listeners, I mentioned to you before we began, is the incomplete spinal injury what occurred because I had a constricted aorta I was born with, and I had to have corrective surgery. So, in a way, no, I did not have the spinal cord injury at birth, but because of another birth defect that led to it.
Right. Now, is that something you can pass down? Like all the things that you have, is that a lot that's passed down through genes from your family?
No, not that I'm aware of. I don't have any kids. I have a cat and I have Sanity, so I don't have any children. So no, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I meant from your parents to you. I meant.
No, no, it did not come that way. My mom was exposed to the German measles, which is almost unheard of today, while she was carrying me. And even though she did not get sick more than what doctor thought was morning sickness, I caught the German measles, and that caused my birth defects. So, wow. No, it was not inherited from my parents.
Wow. Did she have a lot of guilt for that, even though technically it's not her fault?
I think a little bit. We don't really talk about that because for me, what's happened has happened. No reason to try to blame anyone or try to point fingers. You just got to deal with what you're given. And if you focus on wanting to have guilt or blaming someone, you're taking the eye off of what I believe should be your mission, is to be the best possible you that you can be.
Sure. No, I think maybe she would have more guilt if you weren't so strong and you didn't have this type of attitude, because there are a lot of people who go the opposite way and they let it define them. And if maybe if you were constantly miserable and depressed, and I know you do have depression, but if you were constantly, maybe you don't show it as much around her. If you were just constantly walking around miserable, maybe it would she would probably feel a little more guilt. But since you have this like self-reflection and you're pushing past all your pain, and you do a lot of amazing things, it's probably easy for her to kind of accept what was done is done and screw it.
Quite possible. I don't know. I'm not her, and I we have not developed a way to read a mom's mind because if we could, us kids would know when we're children when we push mom enough, and we would be a lot less likely to get spanked, and we would know where mom is, so we know how far and how fast we can run when they get angry.
For sure. So I'm trying to think. I guess we might as well just start off with the being legally blind.
Mhm.
Like how bad are your eyes? If you can explain it to the audience,
Well,
the best way you can.
and you know, I've been asked that. How bad are your eyes? What do you see? And it's very hard for me to answer that question because I've never had normal vision. To me, this is normal. But
Sure.
my 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 doctors have told me my vision is 2200 in my left eye and 2300 in my right. So that's my visual acuity. I can read out of my left eye, but I cannot read out of my right eye. And with the exception of when I wear these really thick glasses I have to wear, or if I have to read my cell phone, I got to get it closer to my face. Just looking at me, you may not be able to tell I'm visually impaired. Uh, but as far as seeing, that's my visual measurements. Like I said, I can read out of the left eye, but never been able to out of the right. I have no depth perception, which is really fun with my with my physical disability because curb cuts, I'm guessing where they are. And there's been a couple of times I'm almost fallen off the edge of the curb because I thought there wasn't a curb cut, and I thought there was a curb cut, and there wasn't one.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny you say that because my eyes have played tricks on me many times, and I don't know if you've ever had this, but like for mine, sometimes are very sensitive to light. And
Hmm.
if I'm looking in the light and I see, like, let's say a shadow of mine move, sometimes it almost looks like something's coming at me and I may flinch.
Right.
And it's like, oh, and then I realize, like, oh, duh, it was just me. But yeah, it's weird how when your eyes are a little wonky, you may see some things that really aren't there and not like an hallucination for those
Right.
people who see that.
You misinterpret maybe a shadow and thinking somebody else, or I don't judge distance. So my wife has learned, don't get right in my face with her hand because I think it's someone coming close to me, and I get aggressive. Well, not aggressive, but defensive, so I don't get hurt. And I don't really have a lot of trouble with the light because most of the time I wear a baseball cap that cuts down the light, so it's easier for me to see, so I don't get blinded by light and walk into telephone poles or buses or anything big like that that can hurt me.
Yeah, see, it's funny you say that. Like when I was a kid, because my eyes were even more sensitive to light, and I would wear a ball cap over my face, and because my left eye is worse and was more sensitive, which is
Hmm.
actually my bad eye, I would wear it over to protect the left eye. But as the brim is coming down, it's now blocking the vision of the right eye. So I would walk
Hmm.
into poles and things, and of course that led to bullying and a bunch of other stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's amazing. I've never had. I don't have cataracts. My friend, she does, and I know how bad they can be. Uh,
They're no fun. I've had them removed twice.
wow.
So
Now, what does that do? Like, does that make your vision better when they're removed, or does it just does it leave scarring? Like, what does that do for you?
well, no scarring that I'm aware of. And making my vision better, I would assume so. I was a kid when it happened. The first time I was under the age of 2. The second time I was 8 or 9, and I really did not, sit down and say, "Wow, I can see better than I did before." As soon as the patch came off, cool. I can go outside and ride my bike, and that's all I cared about.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
Yeah, when you're at that age, it's
like,
that's what you're
at the
most
age
scared
as
of.
an adult, you say, "Let's compare what it was before and what it is now." As a kid, like my bicycle, yay!
Yeah. I don't know for you, and again, I had another condition that kind of caused all this.
Right.
But what happened, I feel like a lot of what happened to me as a kid, and a lot happened to me. I feel like it happened to me at a great time because now when I'm older, I'm more mature and I understand things and I understand what things
Hmm.
are. Like I know what mental health is and I know what anxiety is. And I'm too smart, and I'm not saying this to brag or anything, but I'm too smart. So like my evidence, like I have a lot of evidence that will prove something wrong or right, and it will point it in
Hmm.
a negative direction. So like if I were to have some sort of condition, some sort of I don't know, outbreak or something, my body, I freak out. My mental health knows I can at least come up with some sort of evidence to point in a direction to say, hey, this might be, I don't know, whatever, cancer or something. But when I'm a
Right.
kid, it's like, it's scary, but I don't know what any of this shit is, and which maybe is the unknown is the scary part. But
Hmm.
when you're a kid, it's like, it sucks, but you just want to get outside and play.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
move on. I mean, as a kid, we just figure out a way to get around it, and we do it. And as adults, unfortunately, sometimes when something happens in our life, could be a disability, could be any other challenge, we let it consume us, and we stop trying to find ways around it, and we let it win instead of us winning, like we did when we were a kid.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's much harder to accept. I think the only part that comes when you're a child that makes it hard is when other kids like are making it, putting like the telescope on you and saying, look, this is why you're different and weird, and
Right.
that can be wrong. But overall, I think things impact us more as an adult. You bounce back quicker, not just like health wise, because obviously you break your leg when you're a kid. Like a couple months later, boom, you're back up on your bike, and
Hmm.
but yeah, it's just very interesting because like I've always considered that when I was a child. It's like I was just a very strong kid, even though I was very an
Hmm.
emotional kid. I was afraid of the world, but I
Hmm.
just wanted to get back to my toys and stuffed animals and things. And
Yeah. My happy place. And we heal quicker when we're younger than when we are adults.
yeah, in every way possible, it's
Yes.
easy just to bounce back. You can just forget the next thing and go on. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you see it a lot with kids who you give them a toy and then like sometimes they just go, no, I want the next toy. Like you can just bounce back
Yeah.
to anything. You're just like, oh, like you can just forget that toy was your favorite toy and just go on. And maybe sometimes it feels wrong for the person who bought it for you, but you just can move on very quickly, and that it also contributes to anything that's going on in your life where you get hurt, you just bounce back, and it's nothing. But you're older, it plays more of an impact, and it affects you a little more.
Very true.
So with your ADHD, how were you diagnosed with that as a kid, or was that something that came a little later?
I was diagnosed with it probably in high school. A couple of things that led to it. One, I was a daily visitor to the principal's office, probably starting in kindergarten. And some days I enjoyed seeing him so much, I went there twice. I was expelled from Missouri School for the Blind for my behavior. I don't remember what for because that happened in second grade. And when you misbehave as a kid, 5 minutes later you've forgotten what you've done. And then I got expelled from my high school in ninth grade for kicking a principal, which is really not a good idea. I was very fortunate I did not get charged with assault for that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was diagnosed in high school with ADHD, and I wound up in a special education program for kids with behavior problems that actually turned my life around. I had a wonderful teacher, and she kind of helped me reframe thinking that who I am is not my behavior issues, because she would say whenever any of us in the class would act out, I like you, I don't like you behavior. And up until that point, my parents, nobody separated my behavior for whom I was. And that allowed me to become a better, well behaved person. And when, for the next 4 years of high school, I only wound up in the principal's office once for using a profanity in a classroom. And that's awesome compared to a kid that was in the principal's office once a day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was diagnosed in high school with it.
But before you were diagnosed, did anyone ever assume something was different about you when it comes to that, or did they just immediately just think you were an angry child?
I don't think they assumed anything. I think maybe they thought I was angry. I don't know. The adults didn't really tell me much, or I didn't listen to them, because that was one reason I got in trouble. I didn't want to listen to adults. I felt the rules applied to everybody but me. So I don't think they thought it was anger, but I know they believed that I had issues controlling my temper and my behavior.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty impressive to get suspended from a second grade class, because that's not easy to do.
No, it isn't. Yeah.
Ninth grade is easy. I mean, yeah, kicking the principal.
Yeah. Yeah. Second grade, I don't know what I did, but they said at the end of the school, you find somewhere else to go to school. So,
Wow.
yeah.
You were a little terrorist, because man.
Yeah, I must have been, but I mean that was a great thing. I mean, I love the Missouri School for the Blind. I went there kindergarten, first, second grade. Learned a lot of things there. Great people and all. But when I got expelled, I went to the same school the kids in my neighborhood did. So in a way, I may have been one of the first ones to be mainstreamed, a first disabled person to be mainstreamed in a public schools, which was great because then I started being able to interact with the world the way the world is because we had these old rotary phones. I'm that old. We had a rotary phone. My parents got this cardboard cutout. You could put around the dial so they had large numbers on it. I took that off and I told my parents, I don't want that. They asked me why. And I said, because the world's not going to adapt to me. I got to adapt to it. So when I got expelled from Missouri School for the Blind, I was in the traditional school that everybody else was, and it gave me a chance to learn how to adapt to the world of sighted people that does not have adaptations like Braille, large print that would help me. And I think that was one of the best things that happened to me.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, it's like if you were going to another country and then you just expected everybody to speak your language, even though you know
Right.
they speak a certain language. But you just, I mean, again, I mean, you have to find ways to make life acclimated to you to some degree. But yeah, you're right. Like, especially as a disability, having a disability or disabilities in your case, yeah, people aren't just going to just turn around and just say, well, sure. Because, I mean, that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people with disabilities don't get hired is because they want, and I say this even for myself, but there's times we need certain things, large print in something or
Right.
whatever, and they don't want to do it because they think it's a financial thing or a health
Right.
a risk in a way where, you know, it's some sort of, you know, if it doesn't get done the proper way, you know, it may be some sort of health hazard and it may, you know, obstruct my job or something. And so,
Right.
yeah, it's an interesting way that that's
Now, for the context for the audience, my problems in school was way before the ADA became a law. So back in the day when I was going through all this, we did not have the ADA. We did not have curb cuts. We didn't have any of the stuff that we are enjoying today. And so to me, it was a survival instinct to believe I need to adapt to the world. And I think there have been a lot of great things and benefits from the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I applaud for that happening, but I also think we as disabled people should not just lean on that to survive and thrive. We need to also say we got to meet them halfway. We got to adapt to the world the way it is because not everyone's going to adapt to what we need.
Yeah, and I think that's something I've really taken on in myself because I've noticed in our community we tend to sit back and there's almost like a silent war between us and like able-bodied people, and it's like,
well,
there's no
yeah,
such
some
thing.
people are silent, some are very vocal, but yeah, there's a war.
Yeah, there's a war, and it's really not the case. And sometimes there's a war within disabilities, like whether it's like I've seen it from blind and visually impaired. It's like, aha, I have more sight than you, and it's like, really, you really think you're that much better, huh?
Yeah.
And a lot of times the blind guy is actually better because he's more independent and does more, and he's less reliant on parents or whatever else.
Right.
But yeah, it's good that you say that because for me, I'm sure you saw the Crip Camp documentary where they talk about the ADA and all these people who fought for us and changed this and. All these people with disabilities they stayed outside in these offices and they fought for us to make sure we have any kind of rights and everything that we got now that that you lived with previously didn't have, and they fought for us. And I feel like to some degree we kind of dropped the ball and we didn't carry the baton from where they took it because there's a lot of us that are sitting around. And again, there are parts to blame on the world and how we're treated and all that, but a lot of times we're not as vocal as we should be, and a lot of times we're not even vocal as we should be as a unit. We tend to really segregate ourselves into small pockets to where then people don't want to pay attention to us. Let's say the blind stay in the blind and the deaf stay in the deaf, and it's not togetherness, and that's where I think again, I don't know if you agree, but we kind of hurt ourselves.
Yeah, I see that in some areas. I'm not going to say all because we are a very large community with very diverse people, and some have different views than others. So I do not want to stereotype our community, but I have seen people use the word ableism and ableist as if they were wanting to hurt someone and verbally abuse them and put them down like they're evil words. And I tell people, and I get backlash on this at times, if we are going to survive and thrive as people in the disabled community, we got to quit seeing the other side of the enemy. And the same for people who are not disabled. They got to quit seeing us as the enemy. If we're all going to survive and thrive in our society, we got to see not what limitations we have, but what potential we have. And we got to quit labeling and putting each other down, because that's going to hold us back. When we have that hatred of, oh, the ableist society is so mean to me, that hatred is standing between you and success, because you're using energy for hatred and not using your energy to be the best possible you that you can be.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that hatred, yes, there's some really valid things that they're talking about, but when you let it consume you, you're never going to get anywhere. And if you look at just history overall, let's just say something more recent where gay people are allowed to get married. Well, in order for gay people to get married, and this doesn't make anybody better or worse, but they needed straight people because they're the minority. And
right.
If you wanted marijuana passed, you needed people who are non-stoners to fight for it, because you need open-minded people. Whether it's when it comes to slavery, women being able to vote, all these things, you need the opposite side that is perceived to be the enemy, even though there's a lot of people that aren't.
Especially if the other side has the power. I mean, I don't mean that in a negative way, but the elected officials, they may not be disabled, that could pass that law. You need them on your side, and by calling them ableist and discriminating, you're turning them off from wanting to help help us, and that's got to stop.
Oh yeah, if you're just screaming at them, even if they are what you say they are, it's like the more you yell at them, they're just gonna go, oh okay, well you're just some loudmouth person. Like, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're right. I'm right. They are jerks. Why should I help them? That's the attitude they're going to have, and all. And we got to quit seeing ourselves as special and unique, to the extent that I was in a meeting a couple months ago, and one person said, "Nobody understands me except other disabled people." Well, you know what? Every group can say that. People who are gay can say that. People who do drugs can say that, and we're not going to get along together as long as we keep saying that and just making these little groups for ourselves and saying everyone else is an outsider. We're one big society together, and we got to learn to work together.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know about you, but as a person who has visual impairment, I have a very good imagination. So I have a very vivid imagination. So when people are talking to me, like even when you tell me your story, there's certain things that I go in and out of images, and I'm just trying to picture you doing this and that. And
oh yeah,
right. And so I just feel like that's what you have to do. They're not like, even if you're disabled, you don't really know what it's like to have another disability unless you have it.
No, you don't.
So I have no idea what it's like to be in a wheelchair. I have no idea. It's frightening. But, I try to put myself in their shoes to some degree, and, comparisons and things where I just go, okay, yeah, I can see how that would be a problem or whatever. And if you there are a lot of people that are willing to listen and try to understand your plight. But if you don't even attempt, and you just immediately assume that everybody hates you and everyone is against you, even if it feels that way, we've all felt that way, especially with mental health. Like when you're lonely, it's easy to feel like there's no one that's ever going to love you for who you are. And you should know, and now you're married. So it's, and sometimes you're with somebody who loves you and understands you, but you still don't feel like you understand them. Like I've said many times, you could be in a room full of people and still feel lonely. So
that's true. You can.
And so if you have to put yourself out there, and it could be very embarrassing. There's could be a lot of shame that can come from it. But if you just push past that and really get people to listen to you, like, just because they don't fully understand you doesn't mean, and again, there are people that are going to be ignorant and still judge you and all that. We get all that, but they're really not all like that. I know this world is a very screwed up place, but just because they don't understand, who cares if they don't understand you? You're right to be able to work, and all these different things shouldn't be taken away from you. You should still fight and continue to push and make people understand. Be annoying. Screw it. Be persistent.
Okay, that's one approach. Yeah, be annoying. Yeah, and you were mentioning about being lonely, being kind of touched upon being disabled, and I'm being very blessed to be married. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of scary time about dating and being disabled, and thinking I'm going to get turned down by girls just because I'm disabled before they even get to know me, and that's a real thing. I mean, I did get turned down by a few. Now, at the time I was dating, all I had was my visual impairment that could even be barely seen, and I had a white cane. And I got turned down by a few, but I did find one girl who was very interested in me, saw beyond that, and was by my side when I had my spinal cord injury, and we've been married since then. We were engaged at the time, and I believe that disability, my blindness, my white cane, got rid of the girls that would have left me when I had my spinal cord injury if I had not been disabled before, and helped me find the woman that was strong enough to be there for me during the time that I lost the ability to walk and was in a rehab hospital for a month. And she had been a wonderful wife for me. And now our roles have reversed. She's been taking care of me for many years. I'm now taking care of her because she's in the other room right now battling stage 4 breast cancer. And it's been a wonderful joy to have her in my life, and to be her being there for me and me being there for her. And so this, if you're disabled and you're afraid of dating, go out there and date. Yeah, you're going to get turned down, but those are the people who are not strong enough to be with you if things get worse in your life, and you want a strong person as your partner in your life.
Well, please wish her luck for me as far as the cancer goes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hopefully everything works out.
Thank you.
Because, I mean, hopefully, they always say when, you put out good energy, it hopefully, it should come back to you. So hopefully for everything she's done, even just for you and whoever else in life, hopefully, she's able to fight it off. Because that's always a monster to deal with. But
yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure like having you around is very infectious too, because if you think about it, like, you can get in this headspace of why me? Like, look at all the good I've done, and now I have cancer. Or right. In your case, I'm legally blind. Really, now I have ADHD. Now I have a spinal problem. And you get into whether you're religious, and you may say like, God hates me or whatever. It's so easy to go down all these different paths because.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to be negative.
Yeah, because your mind, especially when you're stuck alone with your demons, and they're just constantly screaming at you, saying, "Hey, like, hey, what about this thought?" And it's like, oh man, I was trying to enjoy breakfast or whatever. Like, you're trying to do something basic, and your mind is just, you're in the shower, and your mind's just constantly bringing up all these little images that just trigger something in you, and you're like, oh, like, not today. I just wanted today to be a good day.
Yeah.
And, so using you and your wife as an example, I mean, like, yeah, going back to our original conversation there, like, it's easy to just want to hate the world because the world can be very cruel. Especially when you have a disability, but it's just because everything isn't on a flat surface, everything is even. It's not, but you can empower a lot more people, and like, I think even with you talking about dating, because dating can be very tough for a person with a disability, and
yes, it can.
And many reasons, just the shallowness, because people are shallow in dating regardless if you look normal or whatever that means or not. If you have a disability or not, there's people just won't date people because of whatever, and the reasons become more and more ridiculous nowadays.
Yeah, they do. I mean, from what I understand, I'm not dating. I just would like to point that out since I'm married. If you want to stay married, you don't date. Right. Little thing I've learned.
Right. Yeah, but I've been that cane and things like that. Those are just complete. They're accessories, and they stand out. And a lot of people don't want to stand out, but you don't really have the choice.
No, you don't.
And there are people that are just going to be like, ew, why would I date that? And those are broken. Those are people that you don't want in your life, because even if they
not
were
at all
in your life, they're just going to cause you more drama and pain.
Right.
And there's a reason why some people get dragged down to the abyss of the world, where whether it's crime or certain things. Some of it is sometimes you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, but a lot of times it's the people you have around you, and you have a bad lover, female or male or whatever gender you want to call yourself. If you don't if you have them in your life, like, they're around all the time, and that's you're sucking off their energy as they're sucking off of yours, and they can just change your life for the negative. Yeah, and I just hope and I know a lot of people are struggling to find people to accept them. And dating sucks. I'm single, but I've done okay in dating world. But there are people who judge me. There are people who don't want anything to do with me. And look, it's hard to accept. It is, but you just move on.
And a lot of people in the disabled community feel we're going to be judged because of our disability while dating, which does happen. But some of them will come across like we're the only ones that get judged by that. No, I mean able-bodied people can get judged. Oh, I don't want to date that person because of the ethnicity, or because that woman has short hair and I want to date somebody who has long hair, or she does not have a pleasant figure because she's a little bit overweight. We all get judged by others, and unfortunately, whether we realize it or not, at times we are the person judging other people, and that is one thing that we all need to work on, and to see each other's potential, not each other's limitations or anything negative, to see what they can do. I mean, for younger people, I'm a little bit older. For younger people out there, whoever you're dating, don't go for the outer package. The inner package is the most important part, because that beauty will go away as they age. So find out what that person's like, their values, their characters, if they're a person of integrity. And that's what you want to be looking for, not for the cutest girl or guy or whatever you want to be dating, preferably in human form, not a cat. But, hey, I'm open-minded. You can do whatever you want, but you want to know what their character is, so you're going to be in a relationship that's going to be good for you for years and decades to come.
Yeah. Well, I think that might go into part of the visual impairment, because sometimes when it's hard to see people,
Mm-hmm.
because I've stated this on the show, I wonder what it would be like if we all forgot what we looked like, and for a month
Mm-hmm.
or a year or whatever, we were all blind. And I wonder
Mm-hmm.
how we would treat each other, because you can't be racist because you don't know what someone looks like.
Well, it'd be hard because you can hear in some people's voice, but yeah, it would be difficult.
Right. I'm just saying, if you forgot what everyone looks like, and now you're just going
Mm-hmm.
based on what you think a voice sounds like, you're more
Mm-hmm.
and you're more likely to maybe open up and try to give a person a chance. Whereas we immediately just judge people based on our visuals and what we see. And I think it'd be the same
Mm-hmm.
thing in dating, where when it's a little blurrier, someone has a nice voice and you're talking to them, and it's like, oh, you sound like a nice person. But then
Mm-hmm.
when you start looking at images, and you're like, but she's not my type. But then, like, for a minute, you were
Yeah.
really into her, and it's like, ah. So I think
Yeah.
sometimes we have to use other senses and just kind of turn off even our visuals, where we just go, all right, like, let's just not go with it, because we all have our own moments where we can be shallow, and not open to certain looks, and yeah, like you said, weight and all that. It can be an issue, but yeah, it's sometimes you get painted into a box, but the box might not always be that bad. It's just, like I said, loneliness sucks. It does overall.
Yes.
There's nothing positive about loneliness, but other than the fact that you can find ways to do a lot of thinking and be creative, and maybe find ways to better yourself. But a lot of times it doesn't always go that. You tend to, be complacent and stay in the same spot, and just dwell on all the negative. But yeah, I mean, like I said, dating for people with disabilities is always going to be rough, and there's no real great advice to just say keep going, but you have to, and you just have to,
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself. And again, a lot of times it does happen when you least expect it. But you also have to continue to work on yourself too, and just be stronger, because there are people that are just gonna be like, wow, like this person has everything thrown at them and they have every reason to just give up, and they're still pushing.
Right.
And that is a sexy quality, however you want to look at it. It's a quality that is a turn on for some people. It's like, wow, like, man, this person just won't give up, and I am sitting here bitching about the dumbest of things. I burnt myself in when I was picking up my hot tea out of the microwave, and I've been pissed off about it for 10 minutes. And it's like, yeah, that's not that bad compared to what that guy's going through over there. So yeah, I mean, it's just, well, with your mental health, like, how have you been able to be so positive? Because you seem like a very smart and just awesome dude, but obviously there's been moments where you just weren't feeling this way.
Right. Yeah. I know that in my family, and I don't know if it came through bloodline or not, but my dad's side of the family, there's a history of depression. So that may have come that route. I don't know, but I knew that from when I was a kid, and I decided when I was young, I don't want to be depressed. I negative or don't want to be that. So I've always been a type of person that likes to goof around and joke around, which could explain a little bit of my ADHD. And I wanted to, when I was a kid, my first goal the job I wanted was not being a firefighter, policeman, anything like that. Was to be working in morning radio. And back in the day, morning radio used to be really funny, and so I was always joking around, and that was my way of trying to fight off depression, and I still use that. I mean, I'll be very honest with you. Right before we started doing this interview, I was in here in my office where I'm doing it from, and I was fighting back some tears because of what's going on with my wife and her cancer.
Yeah.
But as soon as we started the interview, I'm more on energetic. That's a radio term. That I all this energy bouncing off the walls because I don't want that depression to slow me down right now for what I'm doing that's important, being guest in this interview and being hopefully a role model to somebody in the audience.
Yes.
That's but if I am, don't tell me because then my head would get so large, my headphones would not fit on them. So please don't send me an email saying you're my role model because it will really, and my headphones won't fit. It would be horrible. So my way of dealing with the depression is by joking around and trying to be, just funny all the time. But yeah, I do have very hard, depressing moments, but I joke around to control them so others do not see it when it's not appropriate, and to keep it from making me so depressed that I don't even want to get out of bed. I don't even want to do anything. And if I get to that point, I'm not going to have a successful business, and I'm not going to be able to be there for my wife. So my way of fighting depression is to be goofy.
Yeah, that's a very good way of looking at it. I have a dark sense of humor, and I tend to joke around, and I'm very affectionate with my friends, male or female. And I try to I try to be, and I have bad days where I'm just not feeling it, and maybe I didn't get enough sleep or whatever. Just my depression's just kicking me in the ass. But yeah, it's great to just be goofy and silly, and because a lot of my childhood was taken from me, being sick and everything. So I still have this kid-like thing in me where I just want to try to infect people, and hopefully they have good days. And, I can imagine for you, yeah, like your wife was strong for you for a long time, but I'm sure she cried a lot as well. But yeah, this is, not to put all the onus on you at this point, but yeah, you kind of have to stay strong right now. You got to be the strong one because I'm sure, she's, just as worried as you are. But, that strength, like you got to dig down deep somewhere, and you obviously have it. Just dig down deep and find that thing that just keeps you going, because sometimes life can get really dark and you can't see that little glimpse of light at the end of the tunnel, but it's there. You got to believe it's there.
Yeah, you got to do that, and I find being goofy being a better way of handling the depression than some other people's methods. I'm not being judgmental, but some people drink, and there's nothing wrong with drinking. I don't drink, but nothing wrong with drinking. But you can get so into that it can be very dangerous for your health. You could hurt other people. You get behind the wheel. Some people abuse alcohol, abuse drugs, or other things. So I'm thinking, me being goofy, I mean, there's a lot worse ways I can be handling my depression than being goofy. Yes, at times I annoy the heck out of people, but I'm thinking it's better than some of the other choices I could be doing, including feeling sorry for myself and not doing anything at all, and depressing the hell out of everyone that I meet. Like, I'm so depressed. Everything is so bad. Nobody cleaned up the kitchen after me. It's like, why whine to people about it? I mean, it's good to share your feelings for someone and talk about it when you're having a rough time, but you don't want it to be known as the guy that's Downer Debbie, always depressed.
Yeah, Debbie Downer. Yeah, for sure. Because there are people that you don't want to be that person that brings other people down. Because there are people that
you don't.
There are people that are on the opposite, where they are feeling like crap, and now they need someone to pick up the energy. But if you come in the room and it's like, oh man, he's the happy one. Like,
yeah,
this is sucking out all the energy. This is not good. I don't like this at all. Yeah, it's you gotta you just gotta try, but it's good to just be silly and try to have a good time. Like, my family gets on me a lot of times because I buy a lot of shoes and things, but I just like when a new package is coming. It's something that makes people joy, and I spend a lot of money on things, but my money is in a good place. I'm okay. And so I know where my money is. It's not like I'm spending money that I don't have, or I'm choosing that over rent or anything like that. And so I just, like with my grandma, of course, I have to be a little harsh, but I say, hey, grandma, it's either this or cocaine, okay? And
Yeah, very
it's like,
blunt, but okay.
what do you want? Yeah, and I've never done cocaine in my life, but it's like, Grandma, it's this or cocaine or
Yeah,
margaritas, at
yeah,
nauseam. Like
yeah.
I just like I like buying things, and I buy things for other people too, but I like to treat myself, and I like when a new package is coming. And so if it makes me happy, like, who cares? And as long as my money is in the right place and I'm financially okay, then I'm not making a poor decision.
I have a Ring doorbell system, and we have a security system here. And
Yeah.
I just love the chime because that could be the Amazon guy with another package for me.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And
the
that's
Amazon guy is my best friend.
absolutely. But that's how you can look for the little things in life. When you realize, like, your
Yeah,
mental health is taking you down these really dark places, sometimes you can appreciate, like, for us, a good eye day is not a great eye day for anyone else. But
right.
for us, it's like, wow, like, you just thank whoever you believe in. Like, wow, thank you. I'm able to see this a little more. This is a little more in focus today in my life. Or, for you, maybe like, I have to deal with chronic pain myself. It's like, thank God, like, my shoulder's not bothering me today, or this. Like, I
Hmm.
can move around. Thank that I can smile. And when you can be appreciative that you have things that people don't, where you're using a toothbrush, electric toothbrush, and you're not using something that's just been destroyed. The bristles are all destroyed, and it's just something you can't afford to buy a new one. Or you just you can hop in the shower. You have clean water. There are people who have to jump in dirty water or don't have water at all. You just have to be
Right.
grateful the things that you do have. And that's the good stuff, that the beautiful things that comes from the really dark places in mental health that a lot of people don't
Because
attribute to it. Yeah.
everyone, everyone can say this. Somebody has it worse than me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, absolutely. But it's great. Like, you've turned into such a positive person. Again, I know you were saying, like, with your wife, and there's things there that aren't the greatest. And just because you may
Right.
seem on the surface may seem like a happy person doesn't mean there's not
Mhm.
demons in there or whatever. But
Right.
your overall, like, aura is just positive, and that's from where you've come from and all the things you've been dealt. You have every reason to go down a different path and just say, screw life. Like, this is not worth
Hmm.
it. So I guess the final thing, I guess we should talk about your spinal injury, because we didn't really talk about
Yes.
it too much.
Right.
And again, you said you were born with it.
No, no, I was born with a constricted aorta,
Oh, sorry.
and then I had corrective surgery when I was engaged, and that's when I survived my spinal cord injury.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you hear a lot about, like, a lot of people. I know a lot of people who've had surgeries on something, and then they come out worse.
yeah.
And
Lovely parting gift.
yeah, man. Oof. And that's rough. And that's, again, it sucks because
Yeah.
there's a lot of great doctors out there, but there's this
Mm.
stigma attached to them, because there's a lot of people now that are disabled and they weren't disabled going in. Now you were. You had a different disability.
Yeah.
But
I had others, and now I can say I'm in all the spectrums. I'm in the neurodiverse or learning disabled spectrum. I have a mental health issue. I am visually impaired, and now I'm physically disabled. I'm hoping not to join the fifth club. No offense to people who are in it, but if I lose my hearing, that's going to be really hard, because the hearing helps me see and helps me with my balance. And also, I really don't want to join any more clubs. Please don't send me an invitation to the hearing impaired club,
yeah,
because
no,
I have enough on my plate.
no, I do love my hearing. That's why, I mean, I love listening to music, but I try not to
Oh
blast it
yeah.
because I don't want to.
Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah.
You're lucky, because when I was a kid, I was alive during the first generation of Walkmans, and they did not have this little thing that's on the cell phones now that
Little dial.
beeps when you go too loud.
Yeah.
And I have a little ringing in my ears from rocking out to the great music, the greatest decade of music ever, the 1980s. Full blast in my Walkman.
Oh, you got tinnitus?
I think I have a little bit of that. Yeah, my doctor's not diagnosed it. I don't like to self-diagnose, but yeah, I do have some ringing in the ears.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a bunch of people with that. I don't know how it is for you, but I guess it didn't bother you because you went to, the music and everything, maybe concerts and just how you blasted your music. But for me,
No, oh God, I'm glad I did not go to concert. Imagine what my ringing in my ears would be now.
oh yeah, I would imagine what the musicians are. That's why a lot of the musicians have it, because the music is,
Huey Lewis.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he had to quit performing because his is so bad. He's almost deaf now.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, what I was gonna say is because like, so a friend of mine took me to like a bar restaurant, and they had,
Hmm.
some local performers, and they sounded good, but we were so
Yeah.
close to the stage. The music was like, my ears are so sensitive, and
Hmm.
it is true that your senses they expand and they become stronger when one goes down, and
Right.
so
It is.
my hearing is so sensitive to very like the drums and every just the hit off the drum. It was just like, oh, it just was throbbing in my ear, and I'm like, I have to go home. Like, I can't stay for this.
Yeah.
This is like, I didn't want to be, as you said, a Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be that person that just like, guys, I can't do this. But it was giving me a
Yeah.
headache. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it sucks, and that's why, I've been to many sporting events living in Philadelphia for so long,
Hmm.
and for me with my eyes, I just rather be home. I can see it on my
Yeah.
TV. And I just,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the loudness of the crowd and all that. I just like, I don't want to be this guy. But I can't really enjoy these big, huge events.
No,
Uh,
I can't either. I mean, why would I want to pay $80 to see a concert? I can buy the album for like $5, $10 and hear the music better in my own home.
that, or you just get one of these streaming platforms and you just stream it for free. You just pay the $10 a month, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but back in my day, we did not have that streaming platform. The only choice was the CD or go to the concert, and the CD was a lot cheaper, and you could hear it over and over again. It's not a one-time thing. So,
For sure.
but yeah, I know what you're saying about better hearing because I can hear a sound of something going wrong in our car before my wife does and before the mechanic does. And my mechanic has learned when I tell them there's a sound going on in the car, they know that know what I'm talking about, and they have to go find it because I'm going to keep coming back until they do.
Yeah, exactly. How old are you, by the way? Is that okay to ask?
I am, well, I don't know when this is going to drop, but December 17th, if you are so inclined, you can send me a birthday gift because I'll be turning 57.
Wow, 57. All right. Yeah,
Yes.
you're not that old.
Yeah.
I'm around my
And
grandma line. She's 90, so that's why I say that.
age is just a number, and your real age is what you think and believe you are. And my energy level, I still feel like I'm in my 20s and 30s right now.
Good for
But
you.
when I have pain, I feel like I'm in my 40s. So it all depends on the day.
Yeah, there are days where I'm like, wow, I feel old. And then there's days where I'm just like, yeah, I feel vibrant and just, I'm bouncy. I got a little pep in my step. Let's do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what, I want to know, what is that like? Like, you wake up from your surgery and you can't move. Like, is that like,
Well, I woke up from my surgery and I was on a ventilator, which I hate. Ventilators are horrible. I hated it. I did not like that, and it took a day to get me off the ventilator. And they had me stand up and to take a few steps to prevent pneumonia, which you don't want to have as a complication. So at this point, nobody knew something had went wrong. So I sat up. I slid my legs off the right side of the bed, put my feet on the floor, and I attempted to stand, and I bam fell hard on my knees onto the linoleum floor in the CVICU. And the nurses got me back up on the gurney. About a couple hours later, we tried it again. That time, I felt even harder. And they scurried back to the desk and started, making phone calls. A few days later, I had an MRI, and it was determined I had a incomplete spinal cord injury. And when I found out what was going on, first I was in denial. I had a catheter in me because that's normal during surgery. And I thought, as soon as they take that out, I'll be able to walk. That's what's stopping me from walking. And they took that out, and I was still having trouble walking. And I went through a lot of denial. I thought, well, it was the end of July, and I said by Labor Day, I'm going to be able to walk like I did before, no problem. Labor Day came, and I was still in a wheelchair. So it took me a while to accept that I had lost the ability to run, walk, or even stand. But I did not ever give up the hope, and I still have it, that I will be able to walk someday. I may not be able to walk, 5-10 miles like I did before. I may just be 2 or 3 steps without a mobility aid, but I still believe I'll be able to do that someday. And within my house, I can take 1, maybe 2 steps if something's near me without holding on to anything. So I'm making progress to that. And it's been 20 years since my injury, and I still push myself to get better each and every day.
No, that's awesome. I mean, what did you really do? Because you said you kind of trained yourself to get to walk again. Like, how is that
Well,
possible?
I had my stroke in 2002. To lay people, it's a stroke, and to medical community, it's an incomplete spinal cord injury. And I went through inpatient rehab for a month and outpatient rehab for 6 months. And after 6 months, uh, anything that you have an injury like that is called spontaneous recovery, where you're going to make the most recovery in those 6 months. Then it dives down. And when it started diving down, my insurance company said, well, we're not paying for that anymore. And basically, they were giving up on me. And I decided I'm not giving up on myself. So in at my apartment, I had this narrow hallway where I could put my hand on each wall. And I started walking up and down that hallway to do balance, like doing the parallel bars that I did in the rehab. So many years later, about 5 or 6, 7 years later, my wife and I were at a Target store. And we have an SUV. She got my wheelchair out and she wheeled me and she wheeled me around the store. Well, one day we went in there and I saw these cool scooters that Target has. And I thought, I want to ride one of those. And I thought, this is going to be ridiculous to have my wife wheel me in, take the wheelchair back out to the car, then come to get the wheelchair to get me off the scooter and back to the car. So our next trip to Target, we parked in the disabled parking because, hey, I have a placard. And there was a red Target cart next to our car. And I said, dear, why don't you bring that cart over to me? And she did. And I grabbed onto the front part where the handrail is, and I slowly started pushing that cart into the store and taking steps. And that's how I started to teach myself how to walk, because I wanted to ride that scooter in the Target store.
Oh, yeah, you had a goal and you wanted to reach
it. Yes, I did. Yep.
Oh, that's pretty fascinating. Oh, good for you. Yeah.
It was not pretty, and it was not painful the first few times that I did it, and it took a lot out of me, and I was exhausted afterwards. But now I can't walk, hundreds of miles, but I can walk from our car to our doctor's office or most places that we travel to. But if I go to a zoo or a mall or something like that, I have my own scooter, and I got to use my scooter for longer distances. But I can walk shorter distances with what's technically called a rollator. A walker is something that has two wheels in the front and nothing in the back. I mean, just little feet that sit on the ground. A rollator has all four of the poles with wheels on them. So I use a rollator to get around.
What about a Segway? Could you use a Segway?
No, I don't have that much balance to do the Segway. I haven't really tried one. I don't think I have that kind of balance because I can easily fall over. I mean, if I'm walking and somebody even brushes up against me, I can lose my balance and fall. So
sure, okay, that makes sense.
No, I've not done a Segway.
Gotcha.
Not that kind. I used to work in morning radio. We did a lot of segues from one subject to another, but not the kind that you're talking about.
I was gonna say you do have kind of a radio voice, so that makes sense.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so it makes sense. Did you ever do any kind of because a lot of radio voices, they always there's the good ones, and then there's the one with hi everybody, I am DJ.
Yeah, what I call the pukey radio voice. Yes.
Yeah, the DJs, the jocks.
Yes.
Some of them they have to turn it up a notch.
Yes. Yes.
And radio's, I mean, I'm sure radio is pretty dead at this point. I mean, it's kind of.
Yes, it is. It is. It's not what it used to be. Yeah, radio is not what it was in the 80s. The best decade of music, in case if I had not mentioned that yet.
No, yes, you have.
Okay. But what somebody may have just, tuned out and had a squirrel moment, did not hear me say that earlier, so let me repeat it. Sure. The 1980s were the best music ever.
Oh, yeah, and I have people with many different disabilities, and I'm sure people have different mental disabilities, and, they forgot. So, if you didn't hear, he said it again. But yeah, no, that's interesting. But it makes sense though, because you do have that kind of voice. So it's.
Thank you.
There's some people you just hear them, you're like, yeah, they'd be good for that. Of course, they always that running joke, like if somebody was overweight or unattractive, they're like, well, you have a voice for radio or whatever. It's like,
well, I worked in radio because I said I have a face for radio because I'm not really great on TV cameras, so I have a voice. I have a face for radio.
Yeah,
what I've always told people.
Fair enough.
And I use the voice now to do a podcast, which I was segueing to. But yeah, I do use my radio skills for podcasting now.
Okay, and so that's what I was going to segue in as well. So what?
Good, we're on the same wavelength there. That's another radio term.
Good synergy
for those that are taking notes and keeping score.
That's right. Good synergy here. But so what was the thought process behind the podcast?
The thought process was behind the podcast is I was talking about doing one for years, and my wife said, "When are you going to actually do it?" COVID hit, and I thought, you know what? This is a great time to launch a podcast because people are really consuming podcasts because they can't leave their homes. So I decided I want to do a podcast where I can share stories of people who are disabled and who are successful. Because unfortunately, in our community, we have one of the highest unemployment rates. I just read an article in September of this year, 2022. Our unemployment rate is 8.7%, where the overall unemployment rate, according to the Department of Labor, which is where I got these statistics, in October was like 3 point something here just for the entire country. We have a high unemployment rate. And we do have people in our community who are successful. We have people in our community who want to be successful. And the people who want to be successful would probably, I believe, and I hope I'm right, want to know how those people who are successful achieve that success. So I bring people onto the podcast who are successful to share how they did it. Sometimes we talk about how they discuss the elephant in the room, the disability during the hiring process. Sometimes we've talked about how they ask for reasonable accommodations. So others who are in our community who want to become successful can find out the life hacks to achieve that. And also in our community, we are the largest percentage of people that are entrepreneurs. And we also bring on entrepreneurs to talk about their experiences being an entrepreneur with a disability and how they do the things that they need to do in the business so they can succeed, so others can succeed. We also bring on what I call influencers in the success building community so we can learn from them, and I can ask them questions like, so this is what you suggest to do. How would I, a person with a disability, do that because of these challenges that I have? And pick their brains so we can learn from them.
Nah, that's awesome. Well, I'm not going to whore myself out, but if you need a guest, just let me know.
Okay, I'll send. There's an application process. I'm not picking on you. Everyone has to go through. I'll send you a link to that after we finish this up.
For sure. And another thing, how did the book come about?
The book. Good question. Before I get to the book, can I shout out the name of the podcast so people can find it if they're interested? Yeah. It's called the Successful and Disabled Podcast, and there's a link to it from my website, which I'm hoping I'll have the opportunity to mention at the end of the podcast. But let's talk about the book for a moment.
I will subscribe by the way as well.
Yeah, you can subscribe. Yes. The book came about for a very specific reason. I was approaching my 10-year anniversary of my incomplete spinal cord injury. And one of the things I did at the early days of my spinal cord injury was saying, what can I do today that I could not do yesterday? And that helped me feel confident I'm going to recover from it. So I was approaching the 10-year anniversary, and I said, you know what, this would be a great time to look back at how far I came and what I've done to get to where I am. And it would make a great book because people would love to read this because it would be inspiring. Mm-hmm. So I started sitting down and writing the book. Now, the question you have not asked me yet, which I don't know if you will, but I'm going to mention it anyway, is where the title came from. It doesn't define me. And I know you visualize things. I do this too, and I don't mean to gross anyone out. But I was in a restroom, and I was looking at my wheelchair. I was looking at my wheelchair that I transferred out of, and I looked at it, and I felt bad about it. I thought, people look at this, and now all they see is what I can't do, my physical limitation. So I pointed at the wheelchair, and I said, it doesn't define me. Meaning that wheelchair, my disability will not define who I am. I'm going to define who I am. I'm going to show the world all that I can do. And when people talk about me, they're going to list all the things that I've done. I do. At that time, I was selling on eBay, and I've been in an entrepreneur magazine for what I did on eBay despite my disability. I've been interviewed on eBay Radio, which existed at that time. So I wanted people to list all the things I did. I sell on eBay. I teach eBay courses. I'm married, blah, 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 blah. And then at the bottom of the list, mention, and he's physically disabled, if they mentioned it at all. So that was my mission. And that's why I said it doesn't define me, about that wheelchair, which is the mantra for everyone. No matter what we face in our lives, no matter what happens, that item can define us, or we can say it doesn't define me, and we can overcome it. And that's pretty much where the book idea came from, the title of the book. And my mission is to help other people realize no matter what happens in their life, it could be a disability, it could be a divorce, it could be a loss of a job, loss of a loved one, whatever, it does not have to define you. You can define yourself. And that's what I want people to know and to believe in their heart, their mind, and their souls.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a way of obviously still accepting it and understanding, because no matter what, it's a part.
Right.
It's a part of you. It's just not
Right.
the only part of you.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more. You're a
Exactly.
multifaceted person. There's so much going on, and you have multiple disabilities, and they're just multiple parts of you, but they're not all of
Right.
it.
They make me unique. I'm a unicorn.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you are, even in the disability community. I mean, look what
Yeah.
you've overcome and achieved, and the fact that you aren't unemployed, the fact that you are doing so many different things, you are breaking the mold that a lot of us refuse to do, or have no idea how to.
Right, or how to, or whatever, or unable to, because I do not want people who are disabled who cannot work. I mean, there's some people who are confined to a bed or on a ventilator and cannot go anywhere and need 24-hour care. My heart goes out to you, and my thoughts and best wishes go out to you. But you still do not have to let that define you. You can still do something, whether that be read books, maybe write a review on a book review site. You can still do something. Just find what your it is and do it.
Yeah, we all have something that like I used to say. People would say, well, what do you want to do? And I'd be working, but I'd be like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to help people, but I didn't really know how I wanted to help people. And then once I kind of got past not the pandemic, my mental health, and the pandemic hit, it was like, okay, so I started in 2020, like in the summer, and I was looking for every reason not to do it. Like, how much money is this going to cost? How much is this, and this and that? How hard is it going to be? And I'm pretty tech savvy, but I was looking for every reason, every excuse not to. And then I just started doing it, putting out episodes, not listening to it because I didn't want to hear it back because I would judge it. And then once I got comfortable enough, and I started doing a few interviews, and then I realized I started finding bits and pieces. Like, I had no interest in interviewing people, really. It was just telling my story. I had about 10 to 12 ideas. And then, I wanted to talk about mental health. I had a friend who died, and I wanted to kind of tell her story and stuff. And I wanted to talk about everything that happened to me. But after about 10, 12 episodes, I didn't have a clue where I was going to go with it. And then I was like, I'm going to interview a few of my friends with visual impairment. And then as I did that, I started kind of delving into what other people in the disability community are doing when it comes to like blogging, YouTubing, and podcasting. And I realized they were doing something that I was doing that I didn't really like, where I was kind of staying in my niche, which is visual impairment. And I was like, I want to have a broader scale. I want to reach the whole community, try to bring us closer together, because that's part of our problem. We're so segregated, and we do it to ourselves in a lot of ways. And so I realized my cousin has a son with autism, and that was the dipping the toe in the water. And then it's like, okay, I don't like social media, but I have to try. And,
I don't like it either.
yeah. And so then I just started finding all these different podcast sites and just different Facebook groups and Instagram people, entrepreneurs and things. And all of a sudden, we're going on 2.5 years here, and I don't know how I'm probably interviewed 100 different people. So it's like, it's.
And your mom twice.
Yeah, mom twice.
I just heard that episode. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. But, it's, I just, you didn't know. I mean, I didn't expect I don't expect to be talking on a $600 podcast board and a microphone in front of me. I made a little small studio in my apartment, and it's just based around a coffee table that some Amish person made.
Okay.
And it's, and I didn't know how this would come, but coming, I also was working at a nonprofit, and they were kind of treating the visually impaired and the disabled people there as like one person, and I hated that, and that was kind of lit a fire under me as a person who I wanted my own individuality. And so that was kind of the beginning of me pushing back, and because I was always the quiet kid. I never wanted attention. I never wanted to be a leader. And so you start to find yourself as you kind of simmer in life, and life experiences come at you, and you kind of evolve. And so, you might not know exactly what you want to do, but it comes from some way it'll hit you. It's just sometimes you have to, of course, the part that we hate the most is we have to be patient.
Yes, we do.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's there. You just got to find what your niche is, but sometimes people think their niche is one thing, And it's like, well, I like playing dominoes. It's like, yeah, I don't think that's going to get you anywhere.
I don't see a lot of job openings in the paper now hiring a dominoes player. Now, Domino's pizza delivery guy, that's a different story, but sure. Domino playing, no.
Right. So sometimes there's a difference between hobbies and then your actual life career. But again, it'll come. You really do have to find something you like doing. And I can't stress that enough, because if you don't, then if you're unhappy, it's no point of being there.
No, it isn't. And I went through that myself. I was, like I mentioned, I was doing fairly well on eBay, but I was not happy. And I sat down while I was writing the book and asked myself, what makes me happy? And I thought back, and I said, there's two things that make me happy. One is radio. Love radio. Has changed. It's not worth it anymore. I don't listen to radio. I just stream my favorite music all day. So, but I still love doing that and that communication aspect. And two, when I was a kid, my mom and my family, we went to church, and I was even a problem child in Sunday school. So one of the other adults took me out of the class. So my Sunday school teacher could actually teach for a little while. And we walked around the church, and I got to help collect all the attendance cards from the classroom. And I loved that. I got to help someone. So I said, how can I help people and work with my love for communication at the same time and maybe make some money at it? Podcasting. So that's why I got into what I'm doing.
And three, most importantly, your wife. Can't forget that.
My wife, yes. Mm-hmm.
Can't forget that. I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, we don't want to do that. I can do that on my own. Thank you for your help, though.
Of course. I got your back. But yeah, before we forget, like, when we get out of here, have we covered just about, the majority of what we needed to cover?
I think so. I mean, we covered my spinal cord injury. We covered my ADHD. We covered my depression. We covered my vision. We mentioned my podcast, the Successful and Disabled Podcast. The only thing I've not mentioned is how people can find out all the wonderful things I'm doing through my business, which is called #Define Yourself. And that website is defineyourself.us. And because we probably have people who are visually impaired and others that are spelling challenged, I'm going to spell it out. DEFINEYOURSELF.US. And I know Tim's a wonderful guy, and I bet he's going to put that in the show notes. So it's easy for you all to click on. Am I right, Tim?
I was going to say, when this episode comes out, it'll all be in the show notes.
Awesome. You're a wonderful podcast host. I have to give you 5-star review. And in fact, if you're on IMDb, I'll give you a few points there too.
I don't think I am, but yeah. Take care of me however you can. I appreciate it, brother.
Not a problem. And I sincerely thank you for the opportunity to speak to your wonderful audience today. And no matter what's going on through their lives, I really hope that they will find a way to create success for themselves. And if I can be any help to them, please reach out to me on my website and through social media. I hate social media, but it's a necessary evil in business now. And I will respond to social media requests because Tim knows I will, because that's how he connected with me. You messaged me on Facebook.
Yeah, I did. No, and you responded. Not everybody does, so I was happy.
Yeah.
But I will say, kind of in closing here, please, I hope you keep in touch. If you ever need a friend or someone to talk to, you always reach out. I'm here.
Thank you.
I know we did this for recording and whatever, but everything else is outside of this. And like I said, you ever need someone, just please reach out. I mean, I deal with my own crap, and of course, you're obviously going through things personally. So, you need anything, just say hello, and I'll get back to you.
I truly appreciate that. If you go to the website, people, defineyourself.us, that's where you're going to find all the episodes of the Successful and Disabled Podcast. And it's available on your favorite podcast playing platform, like the one you're listening to this podcast on right this very moment. Yeah. So don't click on my podcast yet. Let's finish up this episode, then go and check it out, okay?
Typical radio guy. That was an advertisement. Yeah.
This podcast has been brought to you by.
Yeah, it's a good segue from an advertisement into what you're listening to currently. I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, buddy, I think we did it. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. You're a great guest.
Not a problem. Thank you so very much for having me.
And like I said, all good luck for everything with your wife.
Thank you. And I'll be sending you an application to be a guest of my podcast, and that's also available on my website for anyone who's listening who would like to be a guest.
Yes, please send that to me, and I'll take care of that soon.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, brother. Thank you again. I think he hung up. All right. I don't know what happened there. I think he hung up. It was still he was still there, but somehow I don't know what happened. Anyway, yeah, what a fun guy. I enjoyed him. Sorry, my brain fog is kicking my ass. I just can't lock on the word. It's fucking, it's just a mess. Bullet's here the whole time. Bullet, you want to say something to the crowd? Bullet? Bullet? Earth to Bullet. Earth to Bullet. Nope. He's got his front paw. He's on his side. He's curled up in a ball, and he's got like his front, like middle part of his leg is like covering his face. Like he's not into this. He's like, no, this is. I'm here next to you, but I'm really not here. I'm sleeping. Oh, Bullet. You're so adorable. Anyway, yeah, he just melts me. Like, I know it sounds so cheesy, but you just look at him and go, oh my God. It's one of those things where you just want to hug him and love him up, and you just want to like nibble on him. You're like, I don't know what to do. I have this crazy emotions. Like, I don't know how to love you properly because you're so cute. Anyway, enough about Bullet. He didn't participate in this podcast, so he shouldn't get any more of a shout out. Yeah, guys, I've been a lot happier lately. Just throwing that out there. Just feeling good. I don't know. I've been cutting back on some caffeine and different things, and just trying to better myself, going to the gym and things. We'll see. Keep you updated. Keep you abreast. But yeah, I'm just trying to be as positive as I can, and as we were talking in that episode there, just how to be a little infectious to other people. I don't want to be the one that brings other people down, and I know I've been that person. Even if people won't admit it or say that maybe I didn't affect them, still my negativity it had to just be like a stench, an odor in a room. It's like, oh, this fucking guy, really. Hey, the first curse of this episode. He's such a sweet guy. He said at the beginning of the episode, I didn't tell him that he could curse, but he didn't seem like he wanted to curse, which I don't care. You can speak however you want. Speak freely, my friend. But he didn't want to, and I just realized there's the first curse word. I think I might have said ass earlier. Oh, man. Never mind. Ass. Let me not ruin this episode. But yeah, guys, thank you for all your support. I say that all the time, but I mean it. Thank you, anybody who listens. Especially my number one friend. I don't know. There's a lot of people who do love and listen, but I have to give a shout out to my friend Julia Berger. She will listen to this one day, and she'll realize that she won't come on the podcast, but she will get a shout out. She's a very adorable woman. We all adore her. She's a sweet lady. She's visual impairment herself, and she's one of my better friends. She's a good person, and I love to tease her, but I really don't mean anything by it. I just have fun with her. I tease all my friends as they're, at their right to tease me as much as they want, because I deserve it. And there's so much to tease. But yes, give a shout out to Miss Julia Berger, because she is a fun lady, and she doesn't think it. She just thinks she's just this miserable old witch, but no, she is amazing. And I shouldn't say it in that tone because it sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but I am not. She is a wonderful woman. And I know she listens every week or when she can. And I thank her and everyone else who supports. Honestly, I give her a shout out, but that's just because I see her every, or multiple times a week. And I love her dearly, but I do love everybody who supports. I really do. And I know there's other people that I care about as well. I just wanted to give her a specific shout out because she hates the attention. Anyway, guys, thank you again, and I will see you on the next episode. And I actually have another interview I got to do soon. I don't know why I have to break the fourth wall on this one. I could just tell you, like, yeah, next week it's coming up. But we're still in 2022 when I'm doing this, just so you know. I shouldn't get so far ahead, but I can't help it. Sometimes people reach out, or I find a few people that I must have, and I'm just like, I shoot the message, and then they send it back. And usually what happens is, I do that, and then like 4 or 5 other people, and it's all at once, and it's like, damn, I just wanted to get this one person, and I didn't even think this one person would even respond. They did, and then here comes a couple others, and now, I'm in a situation. But yeah, guys, see you later, and see you next week. Bye, guys.